Hi everyone, I'm Pastor Mike, and today I want to talk to you about masks. But first of all, I'm going to take this mask off, because that's just not working to do that. But I want to thank Kathy Peterson for making these for us. Kathy has made a number of masks for folks, and so I want to thank her for that, because these can come in handy. A lot of folks are wearing these right now to protect themselves, to protect their health, and to make sure also that they are protecting others in case they are sick, making sure that they are not making someone else sick if they have COVID-19 or have some other kind of illness, a cold or the flu. And so masks can come in handy. They are a way for us to be safe. But we wear lots of other masks. And I'd like to talk about that for a few minutes with you this morning, about the masks that we wear. And those masks can become walls that we put up between ourselves and others. We wear those masks because of insecurity. We wear masks because we're trying to protect ourselves from being known by others. And again, that goes back to maybe I'm afraid you'll find out who I really am, and I'm trying to pretend that I'm somebody else. We may try to do this with God as well. We may try to wear a mask and look better than we really are because we think, we want God to accept us. We want God to think we're okay. Not sure if that works very well. Doesn't mean we haven't tried it. Adam and Eve tried it when they sinned in the garden, and they hid from God, and in a way they were putting up a wall, weren't they? They were hiding behind something, trying to stay away from God. Didn't work, right? God found them, and God wanted to know what they had done and what was wrong. So in our lives we wear a lot of masks, and those masks do become walls between us and others, and maybe between us and God. And so let's spend a few minutes thinking about that today and thinking about getting beyond the masks that we wear. How do we do that? How do I get to a place where I take off those masks? I want you to think with me for a few moments about some other ways that we might put on masks that we use to pretend that we're somebody else. I'm thinking of the mask of Facebook. Facebook is a place that really, it can be Instagram or Twitter, pick your social media that you use, and it can be a place where you develop an alter ego, right? You're super Pastor Mike, or super fill in the blank, put your name in, and you can pretend that you're somebody, you're having a great life. You can post pictures of the wonderful food you're cooking, or the places you've been to, or the people you're spending time with. It's a way that we wear a mask in our lives and pretend maybe to be something that we're really not. Facebook's a good place to do that. It's easy. And it can become an issue of almost self-worship, where, look at me. Hey, I'm worthy of your praise. I'm worthy of you spending time giving me praise, adulation, liking my page, and then sharing my stuff, sharing the cute things that I post on Facebook all the time. And when we get into this self-adulation stuff, the Bible talks about that, if we're not careful, as becoming an idol. And we can have idols in our lives, and an idol is anything that takes the place of God in our life, where we're only worshiping God, and we're looking to God for our worth. We're looking to God, and we're trusting in God for meeting our needs, and knowing that God is the one who has given us everything that we have. We're going to look at a passage of Scripture in a few moments that's going to help us analyze that a little bit and maybe ask ourselves some questions about who am I in this passage of Scripture. What's another way that we wear masks? Well, we may be wearing the mask of the kind of car that we drive, the clothes that we wear, the home or the neighborhood that we live in, even our career choice, or I can hide behind my degrees. I went to school. I got a degree. I got a master's degree. I have a doctorate. I've known people who've gone into the ministry, and boy, the thing that they wanted to spend some time on was getting that D-Min, that Doctor of Ministry, behind their name. Why? Well, it's another step up. It means I've arrived. And we can do this with a lot of things, can't we? Here's another way we might be wearing masks in this age. With the COVID-19, we're all having to separate and keep ourselves socially distant from one another, keeping ourselves geographically distant from one another. So we're using things like Zoom or Google hangouts and other things like that for meetings or to connect with other people. And that's another way that we can pretend we're something that we're not. We can hide behind that screen, as it were, that electronic screen, and I don't have to really get close to you. So social distancing can become another way that I put up a wall, and I can kind of protect myself from really being known. Let's face it, we don't have to really expose ourselves and be authentic and be genuine when we're looking through a computer screen, through a camera, and being seen by others on that. Now we can be as honest and authentic as we want to be, but how much are we still trying to hide who we really are as we're having Zoom meetings, or even as we're talking with friends and family? It can be another form of kind of the Facebook social media thing that can almost become fake, right? We talk about fake news and other fake stuff in our culture today, and you and I have to ask, am I really being myself? Or is this the fake me that I'm presenting to others? I want you to think about that. And I've been thinking about that this week. You know, what are the ways that I put on masks? I play a certain kind of guitar, right? I serve a certain church that has X number of people in worship attendance, and this is our budget, and we have staff at our church. Do you have staff at your church? There are lots of ways that I can use things to be a mask and to pretend that I'm something maybe that I'm not, that I'm a better person than I really am, or I can hide behind some of those things. We can do this online on chat groups. You can do this if you hang out in places online and talk about your hobbies and stuff like that. So we're talking about this issue of hiding behind masks, and I think the real issue we're talking about here is character. Who am I? Who are you? When the mask is pulled off, when you're not protecting yourself from being truly known, who are you? When no one else is looking, who are you? I mean, someone has said that's the real test of our character, is when no one else is watching you. What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you spending your time on? And then again, what do we spend our time on? What do we spend our money on? Those are ways that we can be known and that our character shows through. It may feel like we can hide from others, but the wise person, like God, the wise person can look at you and me and be a pretty good judge of character. That person can look at our choices. They can look at the ways that we use time and money. They can look at our work habits. They can look at the people that we hang out with. And all of those are an indication of our character. So we can pretend that we're hiding, but quite often there are those who can see through us. So maybe we should just be ourselves. As much as we may try to project that public image and create an image for ourselves, we can't hide who we really are. People know us. People know who you are. And so when we think about how much time we're spending on Facebook or Twitter, how much time we're spending doing other things, for example, ask yourself, how quickly do you respond when somebody posts something online? I know there are some people who must live on their phones, because as soon as I post something, within 10 seconds somebody has liked it, and then pretty soon maybe they've made a comment or they've shared. How much time are you really spending on that social media? And what does that say about you as a person? So I want to look at a passage in the Old Testament this morning, and this is one of my favorite pieces of Scripture. And it's at the very beginning of the Psalms, the book of the Psalms. It's Psalm number 1, the very first Psalm. And it's a psalm about character, and I think it has something to say to us today about the masks that we wear. It's a reminder that we choose a path, that we walk on a path in our lives, and the path we choose will develop and will form our character and who we become. And so I want to read a few verses from Psalm chapter 1. It's only 6 verses long. So listen to this reading of Psalm chapter 1. I'm reading it from the English Standard Version, and it's going to say, "Blessed is the man," but the man or the woman, it's simply using man as a generic term. The Scripture uses the term for males as a generic term for all human beings. So just get past that and listen to what it says in Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. Now I want to stop there for a moment. Notice the progression here. Blessed is the man, or happy. Happy is the word here. And this word happy or blessed is the very first word in this psalm, but it's also the very first word in the book of Psalms, 150 psalms. And this is like an introduction. It's like a prologue. Psalm 1 and then Psalm 2 also are like a prologue to the whole book of Psalms that follows it. And it begins with the word happy. Happy is the man or the woman who does not, and then it goes to a negative, does not do these things. And we'll get that in a moment. But this same word blessed or happy is the word that Jesus uses when he begins teaching in Matthew's gospel, when he starts teaching in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus begins by saying, blessed are, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Happy, 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 blessed. And Jesus seems to be using that to remind his audience, who were Hebrews, they were Jewish people. He's reminding them, he's going back, he's bringing them back to this text in the Old Testament, because this is something they all would have learned. They might have known this better than they knew Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Most of us in the modern church, when we pick something in Scripture we know, it's Psalm 23. But I think for these people, for Jesus' audience, they would have known Psalm 1 very well. And so when Jesus says, blessed are those, people are going back. And it's mentally pulling them back to this teaching, the beginning of the Psalms, where it lays out what it is that makes us blessed or makes us happy. Now let's talk about this progression, because there's a progression here. Blessed is the man or woman who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. It goes from walking to standing to sitting. There's a progression here. Walking, it's like we're on a journey, we're on a path. And there's another place where Jesus talks about the path is wide. He says the road is wide, the gate is wide, the path is wide that leads to what? Destruction. He says, and many are on it. And the question here is, who walks not in the counsel of the wicked? Are you walking on the road that a lot of folks are walking today? Are you walking with the crowds? Are you just moving with the general population, kind of rolling with the flow, floating downstream? And the word wicked here is important. We're going to come back to that, but I'm going to leave that for a moment. Who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners. Now he's stopped walking because he's arrived at a destination. Now he's standing in a place. And to stand is to begin to make a commitment, isn't it? He has stopped somewhere, and he has stopped in the way of sinners. He's chosen to be in this place. And then it goes to the final part of the progression. He says, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. What happens when we sit? We've sat down. We've rested there. We've chosen to be in that place for a time, for a season, right? So you see the progression from walking to then standing, stopping walking, we're standing, and then sitting down in that place. And it said, blessed is the man who does not move in that direction, who does not stop and stand there in the place of sinners, and who does not rest, take his rest, and get comfortable in the place of scoffers, in the seat of scoffers. Mockers is another word that's used here. Those who mock the righteous, those who put down those who take God seriously, the righteous man or woman. There's a lot of mocking going on in our culture today, isn't there? A lot of folks mocking Christians, questioning us, calling us science deniers, and lots of other words. So that's the very first verse of Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who does not do these things. And then in verse 2 it tells us, but he does this, or she does this. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. And the word for law here is the word Torah. And if you know anything about Old Testament and Scripture, Torah was the first 5 books of the Bible, but Torah, in a larger sense, was God's instruction, God's revelation to the people and it is all tied to God's covenant with them, joining together in agreement on how they're going to live